Okay, let's touch real quick on the liberals and the elbows up crowd. Elbows up, everybody. The relationship is over between the United States. It's never going to be the same. We can't trust them anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, would you like to join our missile defense system? Sure thing. Thanks, boss. We'll do. You're very transformative, Mr. Trump, which is basically what Mark Carney just pulled on everybody. How you like them apples, liberal voting Toronto boomers?
Yep.
I'm pleased to announce that we have officially selected an architecture for this state-of-the-art system that will deploy next-generation technologies across the land, sea, and space, including space-based sensors and interceptors. And Canada has called us, and they want to be a part of it. So we'll be talking to them. They want to have protection also. So, as usual, we help Canada do the best we can.
As usual.
This design for the Golden Dome will integrate with our existing defense capabilities and should be fully operational before the end of my term. So we'll have it done in about 3 years. Once fully constructed, the Golden Dome will be capable of intercepting missiles, even if they are launched from other sides of the world and even if they are launched from space. And we will have the best system ever built. As you know, we helped Israel with theirs, and it was very successful. And now we have technology that's even far advanced from that, but including hypersonic missiles, ballistic missiles, and advanced cruise missiles. All of them will be knocked out of the air. We will truly be completing the job that President Reagan started 40 years ago, forever ending the missile threat to the American homeland, and the success rate is very close to 100%, which is incredible when you think of it. You're shooting bullets out of the air. I'm also pleased to report that the One Big Beautiful Bill will include $25 billion for the Golden Dome to help construction get underway. That's the initial sort of a down deposit. And we have probably, you're talking about, General, we're talking about $175 billion total cost of this when it's completed.
And Sheila, it is money well spent in this planet
Sure.
that is becoming more and more a hostile neighborhood. And by the way, I should point out, that's not Donald Trump bragging or suggesting falsely that Canada wants to be part of that. When that press conference broke, mainstream media reached out to the Prime Minister's office. It took them 3 hours to get back, but when they got back, they confirmed, yes, we are part of that. This is part of our NORAD commitments. And I think that's a good thing, Sheila, because the world is becoming an increasingly hostile place. We know that Iran is working diligently to, get a nuke. I think they already might have hypersonic missile technology. And you put those two together, and that is multiple 9/11s. So good on President Trump for carrying forth Ronald Reagan's legacy. And I remember back in the 80s, Sheila, how Reagan was mocked by the left, mocked by the media. Star Wars. But you and I were in Israel. We saw the Iron Dome. We saw
awesome.
if that Iron Dome isn't there, most of Israel isn't there right now.
Right. I just think it is funny that these talks started a little while ago. And in the meantime, Mark Carney has been saying the current relationship as we know it with the Americans is over. We can't trust the Americans anymore, was one of the things that they said. We cannot trust them. What do we do when the relationship is broken and the trust is gone? Enter into a missile contract with them? I feel like this is a pretty good signal that the Americans are not the hostile jerks that the liberals were constantly painting them to be, but they did it for cynical political reasons. And I guess to that end, it worked.
And Sheila, here's my question for you. You're 100% right. What is the over-under timeline? I think it's 6 months when all the Leaside Lucies in North Toronto who voted for Carney for being the next generation Captain Canuck saving Canada with his elbows up, which, by the way, is a stupid phrase. That's a dirty play in hockey. But
also, it's how you're leaving your soft underbelly exposed. That's stupid.
But Sheila,
you're being stupid.
When do the majority of people that got hoodwinked by Carney's
Never.
No,
They're-
no, I
You think
think.
they'll come to?
Pardon me.
You think they'll come out of this? I believe that they're in like the throes of the late stages of a cult where they're just the ones who were going to leave have left already.
Some are, but I think the ones who were going to vote, Polyev, I think it's a 6-month honeymoon period. I really do. And when you see one failed promise after another and nothing getting better, and you just read that jobs report, and Carney thinking a budget, big deal. What's the rush for a budget? Aren't you a banker? You're not
Right.
going down the budget will balance itself route again. Are you?
Haven't these liberals said that we are like in an existential crisis,
Yes.
an emergency, and it's like such an emergency that Parliament isn't sitting. You replaced your leader, ran an election, and are not issuing a budget until the fall. Maybe it's not the emergency that you liars said it was. I don't know if people are going to leave the Carney cult, because I feel like the ones that are there are real indoctrinated. Like they're seeing this stuff of like Carney being completely deferential and like sucking up to Trump during that meeting, and then they see stuff like this and they're like, see, he's getting stuff done, look at him get stuff done, he's driving a real hard bargain. And it's like, hard bargain? I would love to go to Mark Carney's garage sale, because I would bring home everything for free, like completely.
Sheila, to your point about the Canada, according to the Carneyites, being under an existential threat for the U.S. for 2 reasons. This is why, if I were the Liberal government right now, we sit right through summer, because A, there's a hell of a lot of work to get done, and B, for their own self-serving political optics. See how hardworking we are? We're not even taking summer holidays off.
We've got our
Doug
noses
Ford did
to
that.
the grindstone. Yeah.
In 2018, Doug Ford had Queen's Park sitting all through the summer, back when Doug Ford represented promise and he looked like a conservative. And boy, do a lot of conservatives have buyer's remorse over that. But I think that's what they should be doing. Because if it's an existential threat, as you say, was that all just part of the, flim-flam con game that you gave Canadians back in April? Looks like it to me now.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, completely. And in the meantime, out west, while you guys are going to run like some sort of atrocious $500 billion debt in Ontario and no budget federally, over in Saskatchewan, they're leading the country in employment gains and economic growth. And so can you understand, friends at home, why the West does not want to be chained to the anchor
100%.
of Ottawa? like you see this and you're like, yeah, we could be okay without what. Again, I remind anybody who is like, Sheila, you shouldn't be talking about this stuff. You should be a proud Canadian. I'm open. I'm open to that. Just give me a reason.
Yeah.
That isn't sentimental.
To those critics, Sheila, I would say it's not Sheila leaving her country. It is her country leaving Sheila and millions of other Albertans. And for Saskatchewan, what's the plural of that?
Saskies.
So, I was going to say Sasquatches, but I think that's a mythical.
I wish. Saskatchewanians, I guess, but they just call themselves Saskies, knowing full well that it is difficult for the rest of the world to say it. And I'm not saying I'm a separatist, but I think this is a question for Albertans and Saskies and maybe our friends in the interior of BC to decide for themselves, and people are not going to tell them to shut up, because they've been doing that for, I don't know, about 120 years here in Alberta and Saskatchewan. So anyway.
And by the way, speaking of Saskatchewan, I can tell you from some stand-up comedian friends I know, Sheila, if you're ever touring in the U.S. and you're bombing, fall back on some sort of a joke that involves the punchline, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. It's all the hard Ks. It brings the house down every time.
Really?
It almost sounds vulgar.
We vote, they ignore us. Alberta's values just don't match Ottawa's, and they never will.